Every time I handed them coffee, they laughed like I'd asked to sit at their table. I'm Talia Rivera, 32. And for 6 years, I delivered their lunches while building an app in my car between shifts. Last month, I walked into that same office wearing heels they couldn't afford and holding the deed to the building. Not one of them looked me in the eye. The only thing I said was, "You'll need to vacate by Friday." The AC hummed louder than their silence. Ever been underestimated so long you started to believe them? They never looked up. Not when I slid their coffees onto the marble counter. Not when I asked if they needed cream. Not even when I stood waiting with the receipt in hand, the paper fluttering slightly from the vent overhead. I'm Talia Rivera, 32. Barista by name tag. Ghost by choice. Behind the espresso bar, I learned the shape of their mouths when they ordered. Flat white, extra hot, no foam, but not the color of their eyes. I memorized their tones, not their names. The man who always said, "Don't screw it up this time?" Cole, the VP. He used to be just another guy in a shirt and lanyard. But 5 years ago, he was the one who read my resume, glanced once at my GPA, and told me, "Stick to lattes, sweetheart." I remember his smirk more vividly than I remember the day my daughter took her first steps. Today, the glass doors swing open at 8:52 a.m. sharp. The usual suspects breeze through like they own the sky. Suits, laughter, Bluetooth buzz. Cole leads the herd. He laughs too loud at something one of them says. His voice carries, like it always does. It's meant to. I steady the tray in my hands. 3 oat milk lattes, 1 iced Americano, and a black drip with 2 raw sugars. No names on the cups. They never wanted names, only heat and speed. The woman beside me taps her nails against her phone. I glance over her shoulder. She's scrolling Instagram, reposting something about women supporting women. I suppress the laugh that rises in my throat. The elevator dings. They all get in. No one holds the door. And I just watch. Because this morning, something's different. Last night, I got the email. The app, the one I've been building in stolen hours and early mornings, is through beta. Clean test, investor interest confirmed. Real money on the table. I've been coding through exhaustion, through fevers and spilled formula and secondhand MacBooks, through nights where the only sound was my daughter breathing and the clack of keys. I built this app with a baby monitor on one side and a cup warmer on the other. They don't know that. They don't need to. Not yet. As the elevator doors slide closed, Cole catches my eye for a half second. Reflex, not recognition. His gaze moves past me like I'm just another potted plant near the mailboxes. Good. Let them keep believing I'm invisible. It'll make the reveal cleaner. Because in 2 weeks, when the paperwork clears, they'll be writing reg checks to the girl they never looked at. They never learned my name, but soon it'll be on the deed. The chair was colder than I expected. Plastic over metal, cheap but sturdy. It squeaked every time I shifted, so I stopped moving altogether. I pressed my palms into my thighs to keep them from sweating, heart tapping against my ribs like it was knocking to get out. I ironed my only good blouse the night before, woke up at 5, braided my hair tight so it wouldn't frizz, walked in 15 minutes early, and sat in the lobby beside a woman in heels that probably cost more than my week's rent. They called her name first. Mine stayed on the clipboard a little longer. Finally, they called me in. The conference room was freezing, air conditioning humming like it had something to prove. There were no windows, just pale walls and that one art print all offices seemed to own, the foggy forest with the quote about growth.
Cole didn't look up when I entered, just waved a hand, still typing. Sit. His tie was half loosened, his shirt sleeves rolled. He looked like someone constantly on the brink of irritation, even when things were going fine. I smiled, offered my resume, 2 printed copies, stapled clean. He took one, barely glanced at it. "You were a barista?" he asked. I nodded. "Still am, part-time. I also just finished a certificate in data analytics from..." He cut me off with a smirk. "From where?" City Tech. He nodded slowly, leaned back. His chair didn't squeak. Look, Talia, was it? I smiled again. Yes. You seem eager. I am. I've been working nights, learning Python, building some small tools, scripts to clean up sales data, actually. I read your company started tracking. Yeah, he said, eyes already drifting back to his screen. Look, you've got hustle, but this role's not really, fit. My throat tightened, but I kept my posture straight. I'm willing to train, take feedback. He smiled then. A real smile. The kind people use when they've already decided. Stick to lattes, sweetheart. Just like that. Like he was being generous. Like this was kindness. The silence after felt louder than the AC. I gathered my resume. It suddenly felt flimsy in my hands. I said, "Thank you for your time," and stood without looking back. Outside, the city felt different. Like I was walking through water. I didn't cry. Not then, not on the train home, not even when I walked into my shift an hour later, tied my apron, and poured someone else's coffee. But that night, after my daughter fell asleep on the couch with a juice box still in her hand, I opened my laptop, typed my first line of real code with trembling fingers. I said thank you, then I went home and learned to code. The paper bag crinkled in my hands, sweat bleeding through the bottom where the soup container rested. My back ached from the morning shift, and my sneakers were still damp from the rain. I kept my eyes on the elevator doors. 3rd floor, 4th, 5th. I hated this building. How the lights hummed like they were whispering about me. How every marble tile reflected someone else's success. Someone taller, smoother, drier. The elevator pinged. I stepped in alone, pressed 7. The bag was still warm. Right before the doors closed, someone else entered. Cole. He didn't look at me, didn't even flinch when we made eye contact in the mirrored panel. He pressed 15, didn't ask if I was headed up, didn't press my floor, just stood there, scrolling through something on his phone. His suit was sharper than it had been last month. His cologne smelled like citrus and wood smoke. He didn't remember the girl in the red apron who once asked him if he wanted oat milk. But I remembered. I remembered every time he waved me away mid-sentence, every time he forgot my name, but remembered my uniform, every joke made when I left the room and laughter still echoing when I came back in. I watched his reflection instead of his face.
He looked taller in glass, more polished, but his jaws still tightened the same way when he was annoyed. His left thumb still tapped his phone like he was itching for control. He didn't know what was in my bag. He didn't know I had signed a check that morning, that the app I'd built at 3 a.m. between espresso shots had just been funded, that in 90 days, this building would have a new owner, me. And yet here we were, me with the lunch bag, him with the elevator buttons. The lights blinked past 7. He didn't stop it. I didn't ask him to. I could have pressed the button, could have cleared my throat, could have reminded him, hey, I exist, I matter. But I didn't. I just stood there, holding soup he'd never eat, next to a man who once told me, stick to lattes, sweetheart. The elevator was silent, cold, rising. I didn't press the button. I just watched. The break room always smelled like fake citrus and stale ambition. Microwaved lunches, half-eaten pastries, someone's leftover sushi sweating under plastic wrap. I sat in the far corner, cradling a lukewarm croissant I hadn't paid for. It was soft in the middle, flaking at the edges, left untouched from the 3rd floor catering tray, probably meant for the execs, probably tossed if I hadn't grabbed it. I bit into it anyway. My phone sat face up on the table, the cracked screen glowing with blueprints and zoning maps. I pinched and zoomed, tracing the parcel boundaries with a finger slicked with butter. The numbers didn't lie. This one, a duplex in East Belridge, was undervalued. It needed work, it smelled like mildew, but I'd already placed the down payment, quietly, in cash. It was mine. I heard the door swing open behind me, sneakers squeaked, a cough. God, you still doing that nerdy landlord math thing? Becca. She worked HR, but acted like HR stood for harassed regulars. She plopped down across from me, sipping something green and smug. "You know Zillow's free, right? You don't have to play Monopoly in here like it's gonna change your life." I didn't flinch. Didn't answer. She waited. I took another bite of the croissant, slow and deliberate. Held her stare while I chewed. "Cool," she muttered, standing. "Just don't start charging us rent for this table." And with that, she was gone. The door clicked shut, and the silence came back, but not the stillness, because something had shifted. I looked back down at the duplex listing, refreshed the screen. Still mine. I thought about my son, how he'd once asked if we could live in a house that didn't share walls. I told him, maybe someday. Someday had started on the floor of this break room, where they mocked me, where they threw out $9 pastries while I counted change for gas, where they left entire charcuterie trays untouched because they looked weird. They fed their dogs better than they treated me. That was my fuel. That's what I was building with, bite by bite, brick by brick. No one noticed, no one asked, and by the time they did, it would be too late. The server room always felt like standing inside a giant heartbeat. Cold air hissed from ceiling vents, wires blinked in soft rhythm, a low mechanical hum crawled beneath the skin, constant, steady, like breath under pressure. I nudged the door open with my hip, careful not to spill the tray of iced coffees and branded cookies. My fingers had gone numb holding it. Cheap metal digs into your palms when no one bothers to say thank you. Cole's voice hit me before I saw him. He said, "She'll retire with a milk frother in her purse." He laughed. I froze just behind a tall rack of servers. They hadn't seen me. "She's nice enough," Zach said, unsure. Cole snorted. "Exactly. Nice. That's code for useless. Like, what's she gonna do? Code her way out of a break room?" I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Cole could chuckle again, low and certain. "People like her don't win. That's just math." My fingers curled tighter around the tray, hard enough to make the plastic lid on one of the coffees crack. And for a split second, I expected the heat, the flush in my cheeks, the shame, the echo of years spent apologizing for just existing. But it didn't come. Something colder did.
Like the air inside that room had seeped beneath my skin. I stepped forward, quiet, measured. Neither of them noticed me slide the tray onto the side counter. Didn't look when I turned to leave. And maybe that was the last time I ever cared whether they did. Because in that moment, listening to Cole cackle at my ceiling, I realized something. He still thought I was behind him. Still thought I was fighting for his approval. Still thought I needed the door he guarded. He didn't know I'd already bought the building that door was attached to. I walked out slow. No rush. No tears. The hallway felt warmer somehow. Louder. Like the world was waking up around me. Cole never even paused his joke. He never learned silence echoes. Most people don't know what 3:47 a.m. feels like. Not really. Not when you're awake for the 5th night in a row, blinking through a spreadsheet that looks more like static than numbers. My daughter coughed again from the mattress behind me. I turned just enough to check if the vaporizer was still running. It was. The glow from my laptop cast long shadows across our tiny one-bedroom. I'd pulled the desk lamp down low, taped a shirt over the bulb so it wouldn't wake her. Not that it mattered. She hadn't really slept since the fever started. Neither had I. And still, I typed. Bug after bug, line after line. Each click of the keyboard sounded like defiance. I didn't have a team. Didn't have angel investors or seed funding or 5 coffee options on tap like they did. I had Google, broken secondhand headphones, and a Post-it on my wall that said, "Just one person. That's all it takes." The coffee mug beside me had lipstick on the rim and a chipped handle I refused to throw out. I'd filled it with the dregs of yesterday's brew, reheated so many times it tasted like battery acid. But it kept me up, and up meant progress. People say side hustle like it's cute. Mine came with cracked fingertips,
swollen ankles from double shifts, and a daughter who once whispered, "Mommy, your dreams look tired." She was right, but tired dreams still count if you carry them far enough. I used to code on buses, standing. One hand gripping the rail, the other thumb-tapping a prototype I couldn't afford to beta test. I learned to debug while waiting for laundry at 24-hour laundromats. Watched YouTube tutorials with subtitles at 1 a.m. while making mac and cheese in silence. Every click was a sacrifice they'd never see. Every failed version of the app buried deeper in my hard drive felt like proof I wasn't enough. But I kept building, one ugly page at a time. I stopped asking for feedback when I realized the only people around me didn't know how to dream past Friday's paycheck. That wasn't their fault, but it wasn't my finish line either. The first time the app logged its own test data correctly, I cried, like full-on hunched over the desk sobbing, because it meant I wasn't crazy. It meant this thing, this glitchy, unfinished, ugly thing, might actually live. It was ugly, but it was mine. And the funny part?
I built it in the cracks of everything else, in bus seats and broom closets, in whispered moments between daycare pickups and closing shifts, in silence so loud it felt like pressure in my skull. They had interns. I had insomnia. I didn't cry when the wire went through. I just sat there, still. Phone buzzing softly on the diner table, the screen glowing with the confirmation. $2,142,000 received. It looked like Monopoly money, but it was real. My name, my app, my building. Outside the window, downtown blinked awake. Cabs huffing past, someone yelling on the corner, a runner tying her shoes with one foot on the curb. The world didn't shift, but I did. The server came by. "You good, honey?" I nodded, still staring at the screen. "Yeah," I said, voice catching in my throat. "I'm good." I walked out like I'd done 100 times before, but the wind felt different on my face, cleaner, sharper, like the city had finally made space for me. The building stood like it always had, 6 floors of steel and tinted glass. They worked on 4. That tech firm with its neon-accented co-working pods and kombucha bar, the same place I used to deliver lattes to, carrying in boxes while Cole made some snide joke about hustle culture and asked if I'd remembered the oat milk this time. I stepped through the revolving doors, the marble floor catching the sound of my heels. Security didn't blink. Why would they? I still looked like me. I took the elevator up, 4th floor. Same buzz, same hum. They were in a Monday meeting, half slouched in errand chairs, eyes on slide decks I once envied. No one noticed me. I stood outside the glass wall for a moment, watching. Cole was at the head of the table, same smug posture, same over-gelled hair. A younger barista than I ever was came in with their drinks. They didn't thank her either. I turned before anyone looked up. Not yet. Downstairs, the leasing office was waiting. I signed, initialed, signed again. They handed me the keys and said, "Congratulations, Miss Rivera. You now own 1103 Delaney Street." The brass was cool in my palm, heavier than I expected. I clenched my fist around it. Back outside, I paused by the front doors, watched the people I used to envy pass in and out like they owned the world. They didn't, not anymore. I could have walked in, said something, watched their jaws drop, heard Cole stammer, but not yet, not today, because power, real power, doesn't always kick the door in. Sometimes it just waits in the lobby, quiet, certain, smiling. I turned, slipped the key into my pocket. They still didn't see me. Perfect. The elevator ride felt longer than I remembered. Each floor blinked past in silence, the cold brushed steel reflecting a face I barely recognized anymore. Polished, steady, unreadable. My hands stayed folded around the leather folio, the official notice inside. I didn't sweat, I didn't shake, I just breathed. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, the scent hit me first. burnt espresso, lavender sanitizer, and that weird kombucha tang they swore by. I used to come through the back. Now I walked straight in through the front. A receptionist looked up, young, confused. "Hi, can I help you?" "Here to see Cole," I said, with a polite smile that didn't reach my eyes. "We're in an all-hands right now, so..." I nodded toward the door behind her. "I know." Before she could stop me, I was already moving, heels tapping slow and deliberate across the hardwood. I felt every stare shift toward me as I pushed open the glass conference room door. The meeting froze mid-slide. Cole looked up.
That stupid, lopsided smirk tugged at his mouth like a reflex. "DoorDash again?" he said without missing a beat. "Oof. We didn't order..." I set the folder in front of him. He blinked, then frowned, then flipped it open. His mouth moved like he was reading out loud in his head, but the words clearly weren't landing. His eyes bounced across the page, then back again. Page 2, then 3. His lips parted, but nothing came out. "You'll need to vacate by Friday," I said softly. The room stayed silent. Even the hum of the projector seemed to die down. "No, wait, what is this?" He looked at me now, voice cracking slightly. "This has to be a mistake. We have a lease through next..." His hands trembled as he flipped to the last page. His face drained. Signed, Talia Rivera, owner. I tilted my head just slightly. "Read it again." Cole stared at the signature like it was in another language. He looked at me, then around the room, as if waiting for someone to laugh or stop it or tell him this was a prank.
No one moved. This is insane. You bought the building?" I didn't answer, because it didn't matter anymore. His voice grew brittle. "You can't just walk in here and..." I leaned in, just slightly. "But I can. I own this floor, and the 3 above it." His jaw clenched. The projector behind him flickered back to a looping startup screen. He looked like a man watching his own ship sink from the deck. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just stood there, calm, clean, quiet. "You have 4 days," I said, backing toward the door. I'd use them wisely. No one followed me out. No one spoke. But right as I reached the end of the hall, I paused, turned, and saw him again, head low, hand gripping the edge of the table like it might steady him. Then he looked up, for the first time, and I watched the moment it landed. That I wasn't the delivery girl anymore. That I had built something stronger than his arrogance. That he'd be packing up his desk in my building. The glass door gave a soft click as I pushed it open. Everything was exactly as they'd left it. Half-drunk coffees sweating on the table, a laptop cord dangling off the edge, someone's blazer flung over a chair like they owned the air in here, like they always had. The room was quiet now, still, but not dead. It was full of echoes. I stepped inside and let the door swing shut behind me. The hush was instant, like the walls sealed in every whisper that had ever brushed through this space. I took a slow breath. The air still carried that familiar, metallic scent of toner ink and cold ambition. The same room where they laughed, at my idea, at me. There, by the whiteboard, that was where Cole had stood when he mimicked my pitch voice, twisting his face like a cartoon. An app from a barista? Laughter. Real, cruel, comfortable laughter. I used to shrink from it. Now, I just listened. The dry erase markers were still tucked into the ledge. Blue, red, black. The red one, my favorite, was dried out the day I pitched. I remember that. I remember everything. I ran a fingertip across the board. The ink had ghosted underneath. Faint shapes, words, arrows. Their diagrams. Their big plans. I used to want so badly to be in those diagrams, to be taken seriously. Now I realized
I'd never wanted their map. I was building my own the entire time. I turned and looked at the chairs. 12 of them. Black leather, chrome legs, expensive, sleek. The kind you don't lean back in unless you're sure you belong. I used to clean around these chairs. Now, I owned the damn floor they sat on. The ache in my chest wasn't rage anymore. It was something older, something quieter. Grief, maybe, for the girl I used to be, for how small she let herself feel. I walked to the seat at the head of the table, coals, ran my palm over the armrest. Still warm. I lowered myself into it. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like closure. My eyes drifted across the table, landing on a tiny chip in the wood. I remembered catching my sweater on it once, fumbling my laptop, scrambling to apologize while they barely looked up. I looked at it now and smiled. Small things remember. I reached for the red marker, uncapped it, stood again and turned to the board. Slowly, I dragged a line through every old note I could see, every squiggle, every bullet point, every leftover fantasy of theirs. Then I erased the board, one sweep at a time. When it was clean, really clean, I stood still, not because I didn't know what to do next, but because I finally had the room to imagine it. I turned back, took one last look around. Then I sat in his chair. The building was quiet now. Reception sat half-lit, the kind of dim that comes just before a storm or just after the world decides to change. My heels clicked against the tile, softer than before. I wasn't in a rush. Power walks differently. I paused at the front desk, just long enough to pull the small black frame from my tote bag. Inside, it was a wrinkled, grease-stained receipt, dated 6 years ago. My name was misspelled, Tanya. Tip, $0. Message, thanks. That was it. No smiley face, no good luck, no effort. I stared at it for a second before placing it gently, almost reverently, onto the receptionist's desk. Funny, I used to keep it hidden in a folder labeled Motivation. Folded, then unfolded so many times the edges had started to tear. I remember that shift. The cappuccino machine had broken down. Cole ordered 3 oat milk lattes with extra charm and handed me the receipt like it was a favor. He didn't look up when I handed back his change. Didn't know I hadn't eaten all day. Didn't know I was coding between shifts, chasing Wi-Fi from the laundromat across the street. He wouldn't have cared anyway. The air in the lobby felt cooler now, sharper, like the building was aware. Maybe buildings do remember. Maybe walls hold energy. Maybe this one finally understood. The new receptionist, a girl maybe 21, probably working nights while applying for internships, looked up at me, confused. Do you want me to? I shook my head gently. It's not for you, I said. It's for whoever walks in next, thinking they built this place. She blinked, then smiled. Not a corporate smile, a real one, like she got it. I gave her a soft nod and turned to leave.
Behind me, the glass doors whooshed open on motion sensors, like they'd been waiting for me, like they finally knew whose presence they were reacting to. Outside, the sun was dipping behind the parking structure. The sky was that soft orange that always reminded me of promise. Not hope, promise. Something earned. I didn't hear anyone call after me. No one chased me down. That was the thing about real power. It doesn't need to echo. It just stands. I reached my car, pulled open the door, and took one last glance at the building that once held every version of me they never saw. And then I whispered, to no one, really, or maybe to the receipt still sitting under that soft lobby light, I never needed their apology, just the keys. It smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. I ran my hand along the edge of the front desk, smooth birch, warm to the touch. The kind of desk I'd never been invited to stand behind.
Now it had my name engraved on a small gold plate, Rivera Code Collective. The name shimmered in the morning light, not for show, not for press, just for the women walking in behind me. Single moms in tired hoodies, women who once handed over lattes with fake smiles, girls who'd heard, "You're too late," or "You're too much," or "You don't look like a founder." I knew every look they'd get, because I got them too. "Ms. Rivera?" a soft voice asked behind me. It was Cameron, 19. She had 2 jobs and a baby that giggled on her phone screen during our Zoom calls. Her fingers still smelled like fries from her overnight shift, but her code? Elegant, focused, angry in the best way. "You said we could name the classrooms after people who mattered to us?" "Of course." She held out a sticky note, scrawled in blue pen, "Aunt Denise." She let me sleep in her closet when my mom kicked me out. She'd want her name on a door. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Then that's exactly where it's going." She beamed, then ran off toward the room with the purple beanbags, her favorite. I stood there, letting the silence settle around me. It wasn't hollow, it was earned. My eyes drifted to the sign on the wall across from the elevator, the Rivera Lab. Underneath, in smaller print, "In honor of Maria Rivera, who once cleaned this block by night and raised her daughter by day. My mother used to hum while she scrubbed elevator buttons with vinegar and cloth. I used to sit in the janitor closet eating crackers, listening to her say, 'They don't see us, mija, but we see everything.' And she was right. I saw every sideways glance, every underpaid invoice, every maybe next year promotion they dangled just out of reach. And now from my window, I could see the building next door, their building. Still gray, still cold, but now smaller. That morning, Cole passed by with his sad little iced Americano. He didn't look up. Maybe he knew this place wasn't for him, or maybe he didn't recognize me anymore. That was fine. I wasn't here to be recognized. I was here to make sure no one like me ever needed their recognition again.
Cameron's laughter echoed down the hall. Someone plugged in the coffee machine. Music started faintly from a laptop, something soft, hopeful. And just like that, the building felt alive. I didn't climb their ladder. I built my own floor. The sunlight hit the floor like it had something to prove. Warm, golden, spilling across the newly waxed tiles, catching on the edges of glass conference doors, and lighting up the silver lettering on every room, Rivera & Co. I stepped inside quietly, heels clicking against a floor no one had ever let me walk in before. Not like this. It still smelled faintly of new paint and lavender cleaner. Not quite lived in yet, but it was ours. All of it. A little laugh echoed down the hallway. "Mommy, look!" Isla's curls bounced as she ran ahead, turning the corner into the main boardroom, her little sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Her voice rang out again. "It has your name on it!" She meant the brass plaque by the glass doors. She didn't know what it meant to me. I stood still. My name. Spelled right, clean, sharp, centered. No extra L, no miss, not taped under someone else's, not scribbled on a paper cup, not the kind of name someone says slowly, like they're tasting it for the first time and already think it doesn't belong here. No, this one was mine, and no one could take it off the wall. I stepped inside. The conference table stretched long and clean under the skylight. One of the chairs still had a tag on it. My assistant offered to cut them all off before opening day. I told her to leave one. I wanted to remember what new looked like. "Why don't the other doors have people's names?" Isla asked, turning in a slow circle. "They will," I said. "Soon." She plopped into the nearest chair, swinging her legs. I saw her reflection in the glass wall, tiny, bright, untouchable. I thought of my mom. She used to drag a mop down the halls of buildings like this. She'd hum under her breath, wipe smudges from glass that no one noticed but her. She'd think they built these places, mija.
But they didn't. We holed them up. And she was right. We did. We do. But now, I'd built one with my name on it. Not for revenge, not for status, for proof that we belong here. That girls like me don't need permission. I walked over and adjusted the little framed photo on the corner table. Me, my mom, and Isla. 3 versions of the same story. I caught my reflection in the glass one last time. Calm, steady, whole. A knock came from the front. Probably the new interns. Cameron had offered to walk them in. I didn't rush. There was nothing left to chase. I looked around the room once more, my voice barely above a whisper. I said, "They'll never know how much they taught me." A pause. "And that's okay."